Welcome to Mishna study. Over here, we're going to speak about the minimum amount of food that a person needs to give a poor person. And specifically over here, we're going to be talking on the threshing floor. Right? It's important to note that if a person is working in the field, is on the threshing floor, the ani comes up, or person comes up to him, what's the minimum requirement that he needs to give him of whatever he's working with? If he has wheat, he has whatever, how much does he have to give him? Right? So that's what we're going to focus on in our Mishnah. En pohatim la'aniyim bagoren mehatzi kav hitim vekav se'orim. Rabbi Meir omer hatzi kav v'hatzi kusmin vekav gerogrot o mane devela. Rabbi Akiva omer peras. Hatzi log yain. Rabbi Akiva omer revi'it. Revi'it shemen. Rabbi Akiva omer sheminit. Ush'ar kol haperot אמר רבא שאול כדי שימכרם ויקח בהם מזון שתי סעודות. So, you're not able to give an ani on the threshing floor. You can't give him anything less than, if you had wheat, you have to give him a hatzi kav. Hatzi kav is half of a kav. A kav measurement, if we are going to convert this into betzah, so there's 24 kav in a betzah, 24 betzah in a kav, right? If we're talking about betzah measurements, half of that is going to be 12 betzah, right? That's how much chita you have to give him. Or one kav, right? 24 betzah of se'orim, right? Of barley, right? Barley, I guess, is a cheaper food, so you have to give him more of that. Rabbi Meir says, no, same shiur, also hatzi kav, same as wheat, also give him the same hatzi kav for barley. When it comes to kusmin, spelt, kav v'haitzi, right? 1.5 kav, right? 1.5 kav of spelt, and v'kav gerogrot, 1 kav worth of gerogrot. Gerogrot are dried out figs, or mane devela. Mane already is a weight measurement. Up until now, everything mentioned was volume. Mane is a weight measurement of devela. Devela is more pounded, right, bunched up fig cake. Rabbi Akiva omer pras. Pras is half of that. Pras in general means half. He says you don't have to give him mane, give him half of mane. Hatzi log yain. When it comes to wine, you have to give him half of a log. Rabbi Akiva says revi'it a log. Right? When we say revi'it today, stam revi'it, we use the term revi'it. That's talking about revi'it halog, right? Chalvadia says it's about 3 ounces. Rambam actually explains in our Mishnah how to get to this amount. We'll explain in a second what he goes through. So Rabbi Akiva says it's 3 ounces, liquid ounces. Tanakama says hatzi log, right? Half a log, which is about 6 liquid ounces. When it comes to wine, when it comes to oil, revi'it of a log of oil, Rabbi Akiva says a sheminit, an eighth. And all other fruits, Abba Shaul comes, no one seems to argue on Abba Shaul, and he says in order for you to sell them and for him to buy food for 2 seudot. Now Rambam says over here, and he actually touches on a very interesting point. It's something that comes up often, especially when in his literature, and something that some of us even take for granted. And that is all the measurements that I mentioned now, Mishnah. If you look at the weight of each one, every weight will be different based off of that volume, right? The measurements mentioned now, Mishnah, are all volume measurements. Now, if you go ahead and take, a volume, if I take, a cup worth of honey and a cup worth of milk, right? They're going to weigh differently because the density is different. Right? One is more dense than the other. Honey is more dense than milk. So therefore, 1 cup of honey is going to weigh more than a cup of milk. And therefore, Rambam says, I'm not going to convert all of the volume measurements in our Mishnah to what they weigh, right? Because each one is different. So the Mishnah gives volume measurements. Now, Rambam gives you the base measurement, and he says, first of all, what you need to know is the shiur of a log. Right? The log that we're speaking about in our Mishnah, if you take 4 fingers by 4 fingers by 2.7 fingers, right? So each finger, by the way, is measured with the thumb, right? So if I take 4 fingers, 2, 4, right? 4 fingers by 4. So 4 by 4 box by 2.7 fingers high, right? Again, using the thumb measurement. It doesn't matter how I take this, volume measurement. Whatever it comes out to is going to be a log. That's what a log is. Now, a quarter of that is revi'it log, a quarter of a log, right? A quarter of a log is actually the measurement that comes up very often in halacha, right? When it comes to kiddush, drinking a revi'it, when it comes to the kosot on, 4 kosot on Pesach, a lot of things come up with this, right? What is this? That's a revi'it halog. When we say revi'it, it's a quarter of a log. Now that quarter of a log is approximately, you can do the measurement over here, 4 fingers by 4 fingers by 2.7. It should come out to, Chamadia says it comes out to about 3 liquid ounces. Now, when it speaks about the maneh, right? The maneh is the weight measurement. That is a weight of 100 dinarim. A dinar is 6 ma'ah, 6 zuz. And each zuz weighs approximately, Rambam says, 16 pieces of grains of barley, kernels of barley, right? So 16 times 6, right, comes out to 96, right? So 96 times 100, 9,600 grains of barley, that's a maneh. Pras, what's a pras, right? When we had the Mahloket, the Mishna, Rabbi Akiva says, no, not a maneh devila, not a one, weight worth of maneh, fig cake, right? Half of that comes out to, right? Again, pras means half. Now, why all these measurements? Because the pasuk says, "Ve'achilu b'sha'arecha v'saveu," right? They should eat in your sha'ar, eat amongst you in your cities, and they should be satiated. Now we learn from this, Baba Kabbalah, you have to give the ani enough for him to be satiated. How much ma'aser ani do you have to give? Enough for him to be satiated. Now, all this is in the goren. I mentioned on the threshing floor. If the ani comes, the poor person comes to you on the threshing floor, you need to give him this amount. If he comes, though, in a person's house, once a person's home, he doesn't have to give this exact amount that's mentioned in our Mishnah. Rather, you give him a little less, a little more, and that's the halacha. Halacha in our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Meir, not like Rabbi Akiva, rather like Tanakama and everything. And like Abba Shaul does not argue, right? Nobody argues on Abba Shaul when it comes to the rest of the fruits, that you need to sell them enough for 2 seudot. That's the end of Harambam over here. I just put together this, really, it's a great way of remembering the shiurim, of how much everything is. It's a great, just a mnemonic device to be able to remember what everything, all these shiurim are. I was taught this at a younger age and it really stuck with me and it really helps with everything. So I highly recommend you all to just memorize this. And that's ke'askelab yagodu, right? Which is basically ke'askelab. So it's the kor, kaf, kor, aleph, efa, samech, se'ah, chof, kab, lamed, log, bet, betza. So if you line all those 6 up, and you, in between that, you write yagodu, yud, gimel, vav, daled, vav. So you'll see that a kor will have yod, 10, efa. And an efa is consisted of 3 gimel, se'ah, right? And you keep on zigzagging, right? A se'ah is made up of 6 kab. A kab is made up of 4 log. A log is made up of 6 betza, right? And that way you could figure out how much betza, right? How many betza, how many betzim are in there's 6 betzim in a log. There's 24 betza in a kab, right? And so on and so forth. So 96 betza in a se'ah, right? So on and so forth. That's how you're able to figure out all these measurements. We're gonna have efa coming up, soon. So it's se'ah, efa. These are important measurements, and it's just important to remember, this throughout the Mishnah.